Welcome to Smallville. It might look like a quiet and calm little town in the middle of nowhere, but what you don't see on the surface is that the people of Smallville have big ambitions. And one of them is that they want to grow to a population of over 100,000. Wow! Unfortunately, their tallest obstacle isn't that the Smallvillians have too big of a dream, but rather that they are stuck in Cities Skylines on the Nintendo Switch. According to the internet, easily the worst version of the game. So with Cities Skylines 2 on the horizon, I wanted to go back and check out whether it really is that bad. And I will do that by pushing the Switch to its limits. Can Smallville grow to 100,000 people? Let's find out! Starting a new city, as usually, you're greeted by an empty area of land with a highway connection. At this point, the frame rate is very smooth, something that will change later on. What's immediately noticeable is that the game looks a little washed out, as if you're playing a 720p video with a full HD display. The UI, however, doesn't suffer from this low resolution, making this weird contrast between in-game graphics and UI. Looking at smaller entities like cars or pedestrians can be a bit disheartening. Some buildings' level of detail becomes painfully bad just from a short distance. And most textures are as low quality as you can imagine. But that doesn't stop the people of Smallville from living their lives and doing all sorts of daily activities. They will extinguish fires, play basketball, cycle about, and merge into a huge ball of flesh waiting for the tram. In that sense, it's not surprising that the Switch version isn't going to graphically impress anyone. It just does what it needs to do. While moving around the map, the controls feel pretty straightforward. They take a moment to get used to, but overall make sense very quickly. The left stick moves your view, the right stick rotates it, and with the shoulder buttons you can zoom in and out. It's not the same as a mouse, but it gets the job done pretty well. I found that building streets and zoning areas this way was okay. Occasionally it took a bit of time to get the angle of a street right, but it worked in the end. The fact that you have to use the camera to do all these tasks though, leads to very poor accuracy. Things like decorating or drawing districts became so frustrating to do that I ended up giving up on them entirely. Additionally, navigating the UI can feel a little tedious as you have to go through many options first. It's a tiny complaint, but these inconveniences would have easily been solved with, for example, touch controls. Which yes, there are no touch controls whatsoever. You see, as they say, 3 times is the charm. Well, Tantalus Media, the developers, took that saying very seriously. If you don't have 1 finger, or 2, for some reason, if you use 3 fingers, the world bends to your touch. I have no idea why this exists. They probably forgot to remove it, but you can actually rotate the camera like this. A misconception about Smallville is that they don't have any bicycle lanes or trams. But that's not true. Here are a few happy tram riders, and here's a whole team of cyclists. Even with a dog. This is because the Switch version comes with the DLCs After Dark and Snowfall pre-installed. Those are sadly also the only additional contents that are available. On the Nintendo eShop you can't purchase any DLC for Cities Skylines. And the developers stopped updating the game shortly after its release. That's also why you won't find any trams driving next to a bicycle lane. Therefore, if you ask any Smallvillian, they will have no idea what you're talking about if you mention the Roads and Vehicles update from 2022. Personally, I found the experience to be very pure, almost as if I was playing Cities Skylines back in 2016 again. If you're familiar with newer content, you will definitely miss many features. It's one of the reasons why traffic is so bad in Smallville. Not only because I suck at fixing it, but also because there's simply no traffic management feature. And that's just to name an example. Otherwise, it's still Cities Skylines, and that's exactly what you will get, just in its most bare bones form. As the town grew, bit by bit, so did the problems. Frame drops became more apparent, making it difficult to look at larger areas without feeling the estimated 20 frames per second. At a population of 15,000, the game even removes one speed from the fast forward feature. At some point, the low performance becomes a constant presence, and Cities Skylines is then only playable at this frame rate. But honestly, it sounds worse than it actually is, and looks. Usually, you're only busy in a specific part of the city, and it doesn't happen often that you look at the whole city at a time where these frame drops occur. You do get used to it, and it's surprisingly consistent without much latency. Even all the way to a population of 50,000. And the closer I got to our goal of 100,000, the more I was astonished with how well Cities Skylines seems to hold up on the Switch. It's anything but ideal, but I do have to praise the developers for being able to keep it this stable. The game didn't crash a single time during my 15 hours of playtime, and dramatic frame drops never happened. It's really steady, whether during the day or at night. In the dark, the city lights up and it's fascinating to explore it. All the cars driving around, emergency vehicles flashing their lights, skaters doing tricks. And at one point I discovered this incredibly busy train station. Some people marched at a quick pace to catch the metro, and others just took their cars out of their pockets to drive home. There's even the high beam courtesy like in Cities Skylines 2, except here they're not being polite to other drivers, but to the Switch's hardware limitations. Say what you will, but you didn't expect the Switch to get this far. The sun rises to a new Smallville. New because it's a fulfilled Smallville. One counting 100,000 virtual souls. The town still stands, and so does an unused fire extinguisher, just in case. The game still runs at around 15 to 20 frames per second, so I'm sure I could technically grow Smallville even bigger. I did however notice that the game became slower as a consequence of the town's size. The first and second speed are almost identical at this point. I didn't find many other oddities, so the clearest victim is the simulation speed. After reaching this milestone, I can with confidence say that the Switch version is indeed the worst version to play Cities Skylines on. That's not to say it's a bad version though, it's just that all other versions are better. This is, however, still Cities Skylines and offers the same amount of fun. While the performance and visuals may not look as great as on other platforms, it does positively surprise at how much it can handle after all. But I can get the negative sentiment as it's also the least up-to-date version, sadly not offering any additional content like updates or DLCs. It's also quite expensive, but as it goes on sale on the eShop frequently, it's quite accessible, and that's how I got it for a reasonable price, which is also the only time I would recommend getting this game. Obviously, the Steam Deck, PlayStation, Xbox and PC versions are better, that's not even a question. But not everyone has those lying around. And if there's something Cities Skylines fans can unite on, independent of their console background, it's that Cities Skylines is a great game. In that case, for Switch players, it's even a miracle that Tantalus Media dared to port it to this platform. So if you just want to play a great city building game on the Switch, this is really the go-to title. If you have any video suggestions, let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching!